All right, good evening and welcome to the second edition or second episode of this podcast that I have not came up with a name for just yet. As we push these out, maybe you all can help me come up with a name for it. But welcome to the second edition, the second episode. My name is Darius Debo Barnes. That is what I go by. Now, I don't know if I mentioned that in the first session we put out there. But today, some fun topics to talk about. We're going to talk about what's going on in college football. A lot of stuff going on right now in college football. We'll talk a little NFL. We're gonna talk some MMA. We had a real good MMA card this past weekend. And some really cool stuff coming up over in the MMA world. And then we'll finish up talking about family. I think family is important, and we all have things that are going on in our family. So we'll finish up this episode talking about how important family is. So let's go ahead, let's jump right in, and let's talk about some of the things that are going on in college football right now. So um, not any particularly good games this weekend. Believe it or not, we had the Washington Utah game, which was pretty good. When you look at it from a entertainment standpoint. But not a lot of other good games. But boy, we got some big storylines going on, and that's what we're going to talk about. Now we're going to talk about some of those storylines, starting with what's going on over there at the University of Michigan. Now, I think that this is probably what you are hearing on your TV screens more than anything. And it's split up into two sides. Now you have your Michigan fans and your Michigan men, as they like to call themselves, that are on one side. And then you have everyone else that are on the other side. Honestly speaking, those are on the other side are more than likely SEC lovers or some other conference that's outside of the Big Ten. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So we know college football is pretty much split up into two conferences right now. There's the Big Ten, there's the SEC. And these teams are just trying to build themselves up to be the two powerhouse conferences to pretty much run college football. Now I don't know the logistics of it. I'm not in those circles, where I'm able to get that confidential information. But looking from the outside, we see what's going on there. You have the Big Ten, you have the SEC, and you choose the side that you want to be on. And those sides kind of come out, when you have this situation. So you have Michigan, who has been accused of cheating. Um, I would say that there's probably a good chance that they were cheating, according to the rules that are put in place. All right, and we're going to get into that Michigan Penn State game here in just a second as well. But here it is. You have Michigan. Jim Harbaugh has been suspended for 3 games for the alleged. No, you got to throw that word in there because nothing has been proven yet for the alleged cheating scandal that this assistant analyst or assistant coach, whatever he was doing. It is said that he was going in person, stealing signs, things of that nature. And that was giving them a competitive advantage of some sort. And you hear the different conversations on how this should be handled. All right. So here's my take on it. If Michigan has been proven to be cheaters, if they have proven to have broken a rule of some sort, then there should be some punishment for it. There should be some punishment for it. And whether that punishment is to Jim Harbaugh or to the coaching staff or to the individual that did it, yes. If they broke a rule, punish them for it. It's like that with anything. What I kind of get offline with, or where I kind of lose the understanding, when it comes to what I'm hearing, throughout the mainstream, is how they should be punished. The one that made the most sense was Greg McElroy. He said that, hey, hit Jim Harbaugh in his pockets. I agree with that. Hit him in his pockets. Um, Take away something that's near and dear to him, which is his money. If you want to take money from Michigan, for breaking this rule, I would be okay with that as well. Where I kind of get off, no, what I kind of get off and I don't understand is when you hear some of these individuals in the mainstream talk about suspending the school, talking about they shouldn't be in the playoffs, things of that nature. And I just don't understand why. No, and I can tell you why I don't understand that. Number one, we say that Michigan had a competitive advantage. What is it? No, I mean, and I'm not trying to say that to be smart. I don't understand what the competitive advantage is. You know, obviously it must give you something because you hear everyone say everyone tries to steal signs. I can imagine that knowing what's coming can help you prepare for it when you know it's coming. Yes, there is a level of preparation that you can do. I get that aspect of it. But a lot of times, what coaches do, or no, you can tell me if I'm wrong, is when they see that, okay, they know what's coming, let's change this up. No, they make adjustments, things of that nature. So if you have a competitive advantage, if you have really good coaches, you don't have it for very long. You may have it for a quarter or whatever the case may be. The second part of why I'm not understanding the huge punishment that you want to give that team is who do they have a competitive advantage against? And when did they have this competitive advantage? You look and they're saying that, okay, they've been doing this for 2 or 3 years. Well, those years are done and over with. And they didn't win a national championship. Honestly speaking, they lost to the teams that were probably better than them. No, you talk about when Michigan got on this run, they had the loss to Michigan State, but Kenneth Walker just ate them up. You had the loss to Georgia, in the playoffs, and that's probably how they should have went. I mean, they were a top five team, but they weren't as good as Georgia that year, and Michigan State outplayed them. I don't know if they had a competitive advantage that year. And then you look at last year, you know, you had Penn State, always going to be a tough game. You had Ohio State, of course, that was tough for one half. And then TCU, they lost that game because TCU outplayed them. And then this year, they supposedly was caught. So when you talk about this competitive advantage, are you saying where they had a competitive advantage the last 2 years, therefore you should suspend them and not allow them to be in the playoffs this year? No, so I don't quite understand that. I don't get what the competitive advantage is, and I don't understand why we want to punish them this year if you're saying they had a competitive advantage last year or the year before. Because honestly speaking, no, who has Michigan played this year? They have not needed a competitive advantage for anybody they played this year, unless you're talking about the Penn State game, and by that time, everything had been came out. No, and I'm sure they're on the straight and narrow now. So I don't understand the punishment. If you want to say, hey, punish Jim Harbaugh, suspend him for 3 games, I get that. The only thing that I disagreed with is it sounds like everything has not come out yet. No, I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not in those circles. If everything has not come out yet, don't see how you can suspend them. But if you have this information and you can prove that a bona fide rule was broken, I'm okay with it. No, I'm okay with it. It sucks for the team, but that is the consequence of breaking rules. Whether the rule is important or not doesn't matter. That's how the NCAA works. I mean, half their rules don't make any sense. But no, I do believe that rules are there to be followed, and if they broken one, by all means, punish them. You know, it's funny listening to the talking heads talk about it because you can really see where they stand, what side they're on. You listen to those individuals that are big on SEC and they're like, get Jim Harbaugh out of there. And he needs to be punished. And no, he never needs to coach again. It's so funny when I'm watching these shows because you really see what side they stand on. And I'm sure there's money, endorsements, and all of those things that come about with that. But let's just be honest. Jim Harbaugh as a coach may not be as likable as a Ryan Day or some of these other coaches that are out there. But let's not make it seem like coaches in these other conferences aren't the same way. I've seen what Nick Saban does to his team and how he talks to reporters and how Kirby Smart. Yeah, I've seen this on TV. So let's not make it seem like he is up here and then our SEC coaches are down here. They don't really, they don't really do the stuff that. No, let's stop that. Now, all of these coaches are control freaks. They want to be the best at what they're doing. And they will do everything that they can to gain a competitive advantage. You will be crazy to think that Georgia and Alabama and your Clemsons and all these teams that have been on top, for years and years are not going that extra mile to gain every advantage. You'd be crazy to think that Jim Harbaugh is no different. He's going to do the same thing. And then we make it seem like this scandal, or we make it seem as if this is some huge scandal when we talk about the sign stealer. And I'm blown away because, and I don't want to bring up negative stuff, but didn't Georgia have a situation where kids were drag racing and people lost their lives? That seems to be a lot more important than sign stealing. And I don't see no no those individuals. No, no, I don't want to say names. I don't see those individuals beating on that. But we're gonna talk about these sign stealings. But over here, they're doing this and they're doing some of the same stuff. Some things are even worse. No, and you just don't see that same vitriol response to it because it's on their side. So what I would say is that if you have a preference, that's okay. Have your preference. You can have that. No, we all have preferences, but that doesn't mean you got to tear the other side down. You know, I can say, hey, my teams, the teams that I root for, is in the Big Ten. But I can also say, but I also think the SEC has some really good teams over there. I only think they have two really good teams, but those two teams are really good. And I don't have to tear them down to build this one up. So I don't know what that is. I understand, or I guess I have to understand that it's about leverage. Maybe it's about financing. No, money. Everything's about money, especially when you get to those levels. So you got to make sure that you are building yours up, and to build yours up, you got to tear that. I wish there was a way where we did not have to do that. Where we can say, hey, Big Ten, they have good teams. They're bringing good teams in. SEC, they have good teams. They're bringing good teams in, and all of those coaches are control freaks, and they want to know what's going on at all times, or they should know what's going on at all times, and they want to gain every competitive advantage that they can, and they do it their different ways. Don't know why it can't be that way. Maybe someone will explain that to me somewhere down the road. If I ever get an opportunity to talk to these individuals, I would love for them to break that down to me. But you don't have to tear something that or something down to build this one up. So that's my thoughts on that. When we get to the game, I know the game was not aesthetically pleasing. We saw Michigan take that game. I think it was 24-15, and they just beat them up. No, they just beat them up. And I know, like I said, it was not Oregon, Utah. No, where we're just going up and down the field, which is a drag down fight. And it was like, we're going to be bigger, we're going to be stronger, we're going to push you around, and we're not going to even throw the ball in the second half. No, we're just literally going to big brother you to this victory. Okay, and it's funny because that game does not get it's not liked, from a entertainment standpoint. But man, those are the type of games that really show you who you are, in my opinion. I mean, I remember when I used to play my big brother. Now I have an older brother, and we would play basketball. We had a basketball goal out there in the front yard, and I was without a doubt the more talented basketball player. No, I can do a lot more things than him. I had a better jump shot. I can dribble better. I mean, there was not much of anything that he can do better than me when it came to the skill set in basketball. But I could never beat him because he was my big brother, and he had one thing that I didn't have: aggression. He would just beat me up. It would just and it was frustrating from my perspective because I couldn't understand why I couldn't beat him. And he would just beat me up. He would just push me around. And then he would frustrate me. and he would just completely take me out of my game to the point where I just didn't want to play anymore, and I would just let him score layups just so I can go in the house and complain and cry about it. That's kind of what Michigan did to Penn State. They big brothered them. They just beat them up. They pushed them around, you know, and that really shows who you are on the inside because you look at that Penn State defense. That is a top five defense. That defense is really good, and Michigan just kept pushing and kept pushing, and you just saw Penn State just get to a point where they were just like, "All right, fine, you got it." We quit for the most part. No, and I'm not saying they quit physically. I just think mentally that did something to them where they just said, "All right, no, we're done here." So I know the game wasn't aesthetically pleasing, but to me, that game shows a lot of mental toughness. And then you had the Sharon Moore interview at the end of the game, which is another thing that I kind of got confused about listening to some of the individuals talk about it because they're saying, "What is he crying for?" And why is he so emotional and this, that, whatever. I'm like, we always see emotion in sports. It's not like that's something different. No, Michigan is on TV every single day about this cheating scandal. Their coach gets suspended. They're having to put a game plan together as to who's going to be the head coach while they're on the plane. And of course, they win this emotional game in Penn State against a top 10 team. The first tough game they played. You don't know what the conversation was like between him and Jim Harbaugh before the game started. We have no information on that. You don't know what was said. You don't know what they're dealing with. Yet we're surprised and we're even laughing at his emotions. And I don't understand that. You know, I remember Dick Vermeil, and if you know Dick Vermeil, you probably smile because this was one of the most emotional head coaches in the NFL that we've ever seen. He would get up there at a press conference, and if you asked him a question about a player, the tears would just stream down his face for whatever reason. So it's not like we've never seen emotion, and you don't know what that team is going through. So to kind of throw that coach under the bus and be like, Jim Harbaugh is not dead, but you don't know what their conversation was like. You don't know what they talked about before the game. You don't know what that team is dealing with. You're not in their locker room. So as much as you want to down them, as much as you want to say that they shouldn't act that way or whatever the case may be, you kind of got to be in their locker room, to probably get the full understanding as to what that is about. So I'm not going to judge it. I thought it was cool to see. No, I'm not a person that's afraid of emotion. No, and I think emotion comes out for different reasons. So it was kind of no, it was a breath of fresh air to me. I thought that was a great win for them. It was probably their first tough game of the year. And no, the emotions came out. No problem with that whatsoever. Don't know why anybody would have a problem with that. You know, so let's take it easy on those coaches and the emotions. No, unless we got a little bit more information, as to what's going on. Now, Penn State. No, like I said, I think that's a top five defense. I think their offense. They don't have a lot of weapons. No, they don't have a lot of explosion. I think that's their downfall. If Penn State was able to push the ball down the field, I think that you would have saw them give Michigan a tougher time. If they had a Marvin Harrison Jr., who knows how that game would have showed up? It's going to be interesting to see that whole Ohio State Michigan game in a couple of weeks. Uh, but I think Penn State will beat probably 75% of the teams that are in the SEC. To be honest, I don't think the SEC is this dominant force that everyone thinks it is. I think Georgia is probably the best team in the nation. I think Alabama is a top five team. But who are you talking to me about after that? LSU? Nah. Kentucky? Nah. Missouri? Ole Miss? Who are we talking about in the SEC after Alabama and Georgia? Who are we talking about? Yes, those two teams, top five teams. No, I get that. But after that, Tennessee? Nah. No, none of those teams really scare me. Now it's the same thing in the Big Ten. You got Michigan, you got Ohio State, and you got Penn State as that third tier team. And then after that, it's just Iowa, and no one else is really going to give you any. No, Wisconsin. I mean, no, you don't. But it's no different in the SEC. The SEC to me is not this dominant presence that it used to be. There was a point in time where you can look down the list and you had Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Florida. All of these teams were just great teams. Not that way anymore. It's not that way anymore. There's Georgia, there's Alabama, everyone else mediocre. No, and that's just the way it is. So I think those two conferences are pretty even right now. Now, I would love to see the Michigan Georgia game. I think that would be a very interesting competitive game. I would love to see Ohio State Alabama. I think that would be very interesting competitive. Now, who would you all say the third best team is in the SEC? Ole Miss. They will rank the highest. No, I think Penn State beats Ole Miss. Honestly, no, I think Penn State beats Tennessee. I think Penn State beats Kentucky or no any of those teams. So I think those two conferences are pretty even. Um, but I do get depending on what side you're on. No, that's who you rock with. That's who you roll with. No, so to each his own. No, to each his own. Just looking at it from a neutral standpoint, two conferences they're pretty even. But like I said, not a lot of games. No, not a lot of good games. I'm happy this weekend you had. No, Washington beat Utah in an exciting game. It seems like all of those Washington games are going to be high scoring. Michael Penix, no, great, no, great quarterback. Don't know how Indiana let him go. He did not look like that at Indiana. So I don't know what they did over there, what they're doing over there at Washington. Very impressive. Very impressive. You had Alabama beat the brakes off Kentucky. You had Georgia beat the brakes off Missouri. I'm sorry, not Missouri. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. They beat the brakes off Ole Miss. You had no who else played this weekend? I think you had UCF upset Oklahoma State. No, which was very interesting. Didn't see that coming. So not a lot of interesting games. Not a lot of big games. We'll see that. No, here in the next couple of weeks. No, when we get into rivalry week, we're gonna have some really good games to talk about. No, and no, we'll probably see a little bit more competition. No, between those two teams. So that's what we got on college. No, of course that was Saturday, and then you have the NFL on Sunday. Um, NFL is it's a lot of fun, because these teams, these NFL teams, you know, some of them are almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You look at them and they look great, and then you have maybe one or two players get hurt, and then they don't look so well. Then those players come back, and now you see greatness again. And of course, we're starting with that Jacksonville 49ers game where Jacksonville just looked overmatched in every way. Trent Williams is back. McCaffrey looked like he's gotten a little healthy. They had the addition of Chase Young. Brock Purdy looked better. Debo Samuel is back. I mean, it looked like Jacksonville was a JV team compared to what San Francisco was bringing to the table. Just beat them up and down the field the entire game. No, wasn't close. Don't think there was ever a chance or ever a time where you felt like Jacksonville can get into that game, even though at halftime the score was not that bad. But still, just looking at that game, you just did not see any way for Jacksonville to win that game. And the 49ers, no, when they are healthy, no, they are the best team in the league. I would love to see that NFC Championship game against a healthy Eagles and a healthy 49ers. That would be fun to watch. Because that offensive line going against that defensive line. You got those Georgia linebackers going against Kittle and Debo Samuels. You got Darius Slade and IU. I mean, that would be a fun game to watch. Honestly speaking, that offensive line for San Francisco with Trent Williams going up against that defensive line. Jalen Carter and them boys over there at Philly. That would be a fun game to watch. I hope that they can all stay healthy and we get to see that game. I think that's going to be a great game if we get it down the road. With the Jags, Jags just looked overmatched. They just looked overmatched. They looked like they could not. I mean, they didn't look. It wasn't that they looked like they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't pass the ball. Trevor Lawrence had no time back there. They just looked overmatched. It looks like they said, "Okay, no, we're probably not on this level yet. No, let's keep working. Let's keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully, in the near future, we'll get there." I know they lead the league in turnovers, things like that. But you can just tell that they just were not on the same level as the 49ers. So, no, Jazz fans, keep your head up, Duval County. Keep your head up. No, give it some time. You all will get there. Um, we also had the Cowboys. Of course, they played against an overmatched Giants team. And not to talk too much about that game, but Dak Prescott is looking good. Um, yes, they played the Giants. No, but I'm not gonna make it seem like they played against a juggernaut. But no, what Dak Prescott is doing, as much as we slander him when he does not play great, we need to give him his flowers when he does. No, because we're quick to jump on him when he doesn't. Dak Prescott is playing good football right now. Him and CeeDee Lamb, they seem to really have this thing going. I was one that said that I didn't think CeeDee Lamb was a number one. Not that my opinion means anything. Like I said, I'm not a talking head. I'm just an observer on the outside. But I said I did not think CeeDee Lamb is a one. And I could be wrong about that. CeeDee Lamb has looked really good the last couple of games, and him and Dak seem to have a connection that is working for them. Now I think they still need to work on their running game, and they don't seem to have that clicking just yet, but they got time to get it right. And if they can get it right, that Eagles game in a couple of months or next month, I think it is going to be very interesting. Because they played them pretty tough the first time. No, so it's going to be interesting to see how that game turns out. It's going to be very interesting to see how that game turns out. So, then we had the Sunday night game. You had the Cowboys. I'm sorry, you had the Jets going against the Raiders, which was kind of like a field goal fest. I mean, I think the Raiders did score a touchdown to no towards the end of that game that gave them that victory. But man, I feel so bad for the Jets because you watch that defense play, and you can see the plan that they had. You can see it. You can see it pure as day, or clear as day. You see it out there. We get a quarterback in that's competent, that can push the ball down the field. We add that with this explosive running game, and we have a championship defense, and let's put all of this together and let's see what happens. And man, that Aaron Rodgers injury, you can just see how much it helps. Now I don't understand why they did not go and try to get a quarterback to fill it. And I'm not trying to down Zach Wilson either. No, let me go ahead and say that. I'm not no trying to say Zach Wilson can't do it. He hasn't done it to this point, you know, but they had opportunity to go and grab someone, and say, why don't you come in, for the season, whether that be, what Joshua Dobbs is doing, or, Jacoby Brissett, or, just anybody, just somebody that can make plays, that doesn't turn the ball over, and give yourself an opportunity to win that division. I don't understand why they didn't do that. No, I think that would have helped them out. But you kind of feel bad for the Jets. You do, because you see the plan that they had, and injuries have just dismantled them. Just that one injury, has changed, the whole dynamic of that team. So, I know Aaron Rodgers is talking about coming back in mid-December. And I'll say this: we were at the Jets Buffalo game to start the season. I actually went to that game because I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan. I think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback that I've ever seen play football. No, simply because of the fact that when you watch him play, especially in his prime, he has no weaknesses. No, he really has no weakness. He can do everything that you want a quarterback to do. No, he's mobile. He can make every throw. He's smart, and he doesn't turn the ball over. And it's not very often that you find a quarterback that has all of that. No, as much of a winner as Tom Brady is the greatest winning quarterback ever. We know that. But he still had weaknesses. If you blitzed him, no, he wasn't a scrambler. He had those weaknesses, that Aaron Rodgers does not have. And it's amazing that Aaron Rodgers has not won more in his career. And maybe that has to do with the situation. He didn't have the coaching staff that Brady had. He never had no those top tier weapons. But man, he was fun to watch. I mean, he was fun to watch. He's the best quarterback I've ever seen. So we did go to that game, and I did watch him get hurt on the third, fourth play, which broke my heart because it was my opportunity to see Aaron Rodgers play in person for the first time. So Aaron, if you ever hear this, get well. No, give me another opportunity to come see you, and I promise you, no, I'll be there. I'll take it. No, so but man, you just feel bad for him because you see what the plan was, and it kind of sucks that they're not going to be able to execute that plan. No, and then you had the Monday night game. Who, Buffalo and Denver. Bills fans, I'm sorry. No, I am really sorry. I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't know what I can do to make you feel better. I don't know what I can say to give you no optimism. I don't know. This team is so confusing to me because you look at them and yes, they have a lot of injuries on defense. We get that part. They're hurt on defense, but I cannot understand to save my life why the offense is not better and why they turn the ball over so much, you know. And I know we automatically want to blame Josh Allen. We automatically, no, yes, Josh Allen, he is very erratic, at times. And he can be reckless at times. I'm not saying that. But when you look at their offensive efficiency numbers, they seem like they're really good. You know, that third in this, third in this, first in this, third in this. I mean, I don't have those numbers in front of me, but when you look at the numbers, they seem really good. Yet they're always behind, and they're always having to score these last second touchdowns or field goals. And then because that defense is hurt, they can't stop the other team from countering that and no, eventually lose the game. No, and that's how a lot of their games are gone this year. They're 5-5, and they seem to be in disarray. Now, I don't know how true it is about Stephon Diggs wanting to get out of there, but if it's true, that's gonna hurt because Josh Allen didn't get good till Stephon Diggs got there. So that will hurt if he leaves. I see they just fired their offensive coordinator, so of course Ken Dorsey, he's taking a lot of the blame for this, even though those offensive efficiency numbers look pretty well. And I think Ken Dorsey is a really good quarterbacks coach. He helped Cam Newton with his MVP year. I think he was the quarterback coach over there. And then you see what he's done with Josh Allen. I mean, he seems to be a really good quarterback coach, you know, but I guess you have to blame someone, you know, for what's going on. I mean, 5-5 is unacceptable for the Bills. I mean, you technically have a top five quarterback. At least that's what you all tell us. At least that's what the numbers say. You have a top five quarterback, and normally when you have a top five quarterback, you're not 5-5, and sitting in almost last place. Besides Patriots, no, which is another story in itself. No, in almost last place or third place in your division. That normally does not happen when you have a top five quarterback. So Buffalo got some things to figure out, and they got a tough schedule coming up. And it looks like the Dolphins are probably going to run away with this division. Now, if they don't win another tough game against a winning team, they can still end the season at like 12-5 or something like that. And that might be good enough to win this division. That will be good enough to win this division. No, so Buffalo has some work to do. No, Buffalo has some work to do, and they need to figure out, what's going on, in that locker room and try to get some things together, get some things straight, so you all can get back out there and win some game. I like Josh Allen. I think he is super talented, and I think he's a good kid. I think he's a good dude. So um, even though no, my rooting interest is with the Dolphins, now, I like the rivalry that we have with those Bills, and I like when the Bills are good. It just keeps you on edge when they're playing each other. So let's get it together, Bills. No, let's get it together. No, y'all patch it up. Do what you got to do. No, show some resiliency and no, finish strong. No, towards the end of the year. So, um, great games coming up this week in the NFL. I'm looking forward to it. So awesome. Awesome. Love sports. So we also had an MMA fight this weekend. I am a huge MMA fan as well. I've been watching MMA. Not that I'm going to try to throw my MMA credentials out there because I don't have any, but I've been watching it. No, for probably 15, 20 years. No, now, no, started, no, in those Shamrocks, Tito Ortiz days. It was kind of like cage or cockfighting back then, but as the sport evolved, I've kind of involved with it. So, we had huge card this weekend. You had the main card, knowing the main fight with Alex Pereira going against Yuri Prohashka. And Alex Pereira, I mean, man, what he has done in the span that he's done it in is amazing. He's already, and I think 10 or 11 fights, a two-fight champion. All right, two weight divisions. I'm sorry. He's won the championship in two weight divisions. It's crazy. Now, one of the divisions that he's been that he was a championship champion for, we saw him beat who some may deem to be the greatest middleweight ever in Israel Adesanya. You know, now of course that's the Anderson Silva, Israel Adesanya, no comparison, no, and no matter no whatever side you sit on, that's no, it is what it is. But we saw him go and beat Izzy in like his what, no, sixth, seventh fight, maybe his eighth fight, no, in MMA. No, he went and he beat him. Now you can say early stoppage. Some say that. I thought it was a good stoppage, but if you say, hey, early stoppage, I think you let the champ go out on the shield, you know. But we saw him win that fight. Now him and Izzy they do have history. They did fight in kickboxing, so it was not like he was coming and fighting this brand new guy who he had never seen before. So I get that. Uh, but that was an exciting fight. And then you saw Izzy come get that belt back, in a fascinating knockout in the second fight that they had. Where Izzy comes in and he looks like he's hurt, and he just catches Alex and puts him to sleep. And Izzy gets his belt back. So Alex goes up to 205. No, he takes a 205 fight. He wins that fight, and then he fights for the vacant championship because Jamal Hill gets hurt. He tears his ACL or his Achilles. No, I think it's one of those injuries that he has that's going to keep him out for a while. Yuri Prohashka, who was the champion, had a really bad shoulder injury. He's coming back from that shoulder injury to get his belt back, which he had to vacate. So perfect matchup, perfect timing. Boom, we get this fight. And man, uh, it was fun for as long as it lasted. Once again, some may say early stoppage, but Yuri said it was a good stoppage. No, he's the fighter. He tells you, hey, I was out. My body was just kind of in no auto mode, no, maybe cruise control, and it was just doing what it knew to do. But I was out of it. Good stoppage. Can't argue with that. So we have Alex Pereira, who is now the 205 champ, a division that needs a champion because since John Jones vacant that belt, we have not really seen anything consistent, with that division. So great to see that division have a champion right now. It's going to be interesting to see what they do next. I know Jamal Hill should be next, depending on how long he's going to be out. Um, but Alex called out Izzy again, so we'll see what happens with that division and what the next moves are going to be. And then you had Tom Aspinall just with a brutal knockout, and that kid there, he looks really good. The first time I saw him, the first time I heard of him was when he's fighting Curtis Blades. And he takes the fight with Curtis Blades. They're talking about how great he is. And I'm like, okay, let's watch him. But I think he blows his knee out in the first round. He just blows his knee out. So you really don't get an opportunity to see what he's like. You really don't get an opportunity to see it. You know, so he rehabs, he comes back, he takes a fight, he knocks that individual out. I don't remember who it was that he fought at that point in time, but he go ahead, he wins that fight, and John Jones, Stipe, they scheduled the fight. John Jones tears his pec. Get well soon, John. No greatest fighter that I've seen in MMA, at least one of them. Get well soon. So they do an interim title, which was kind of interesting. I want to talk a little bit about that. They do an interim title, with Tom Aspinall going up against. Let me see here. Let me see who he was going up against. I want to make sure I save it there. Sergey Pavlovich is who he was going up against, and finish him in the first round. He finished him in the first round. I mean, just brutal knockout. Showed some great explosiveness, um, great power. No, he even took a shot. Pavlovich knocks everybody out, and Tom took it and fulfills his dream. And now he's the interim champ. So it's interesting now because now what do we do? Because John Jones and Stipe, they still want to fight each other. So what do you do with this interim title? No, because what normally happens is you have a champion who's hurt. So since he's going to be out for a while, we do an interim belt because we want to make sure that we have a champion in the meantime. All right. So after that individual fights, they try to make combine those belts together, and go from there. Now we can see who the true champ is. But if they continue or if they stick with this Stipe John fight, what do you do from there? Where do you go from there? No, is he supposed to take another fight? And is he still the interim champ if he wins? I mean, it's kind of a weird circumstance, a weird situation. It's going to be very interesting to see how that works, and how that comes together. No, there's a lot of good heavyweights out there. Almeida's out there. Cyril Gane is out there. No, I'm sure they're itching to get no one of those fights. No, or that fight with Tom. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't. It's going to be interesting to see, how that works out. But we'll see. Yeah, Andrade get back in the winning column. She finished Mackenzie Dern, which was kind of sad. I kind of like Mackenzie Dern. Thought she had an opportunity to get Andrade while she was on the downside. You kind of thought Andrade was kind of winding her career down. I think this was her fourth or fifth fight this year. And I think she's lost a lot of those fights that she's had this year. So you thought Mackenzie Dern can go in there, get the fight to the ground, maybe finish her off. But Andrade shows she's a warrior. You know, and no matter how she's fighting, she still has that power. So she was able to finish Mackenzie Dern, where no, she just looked too strong for her. To be honest, she just looked way too strong for her. So Mackenzie, keep your head up. You're still young. Let's keep getting at it, and hopefully we'll see you fighting for that belt. Sometime in the future. So just keep working. And then Draj, great job. I mean, great job bouncing back after this year has not probably went best for you. So, yeah, what's nice to see, and just a good card all around. With just a good card all around. Got some fun things coming up. We got another big card in December coming up with Kobe and Leon that we're very interested in that card. That card is actually stacked, though, to be honest. So it's going to be fun to watch that fight when it comes out. I have not been to a fight in a while, so um, that may be a good one to go to be honest. So looking forward to those fights that are coming up. So awesome. Um, and as we wind down here, the last thing that I want to talk about is family. I think family is important as we get ready to go into the holidays. Thanksgiving is coming up next week. What I want to say is that my mother-in-law, she had a brain aneurysm, here last week. And these are the situations and the circumstances where families really come together, and we really have to make sure that we stay strong in these circumstances and in these situations. So as we head into these holidays, make sure that you're taking care of each other. Make sure that you're looking out for each other as well. No, make sure that you're taking care of your bodies. Sometimes as we get up in age and as things going on in life move so fast, sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves and we allow, things to happen. We stop doing some of the activities that we used to do, and these things can sneak up on you. So let's make sure that we're doing everything that we can to take care of ourselves. Let's make sure that we're telling each other that we love each other. Because life is short and you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I'm going to ask that you all keep my family in prayer. Um, we're optimistic that things will work out. Things have been working out in our favor, up to this point. But we will continue to pray, and make sure that we are doing everything that we can to be supportive to one another. And I'll ask you all to do the same. Support one another. Be there for one another. Love one another. As we get ready to go into these holidays. Mama, I love you. I'm praying that you get better and that things go well. No, and hopefully, we'll be able to celebrate Thanksgiving together. So much love. Mm, praying for you. See you soon. Uh, and that is all we have, for today. Now, I hope you've enjoyed it. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk again next week.